Hey guys, my name's Andrew Ford and I'm a freelance musician and teacher. This is the first video in a short series where I'll be talking to you about tinnitus and hearing loss for musicians. Firstly, a quick disclaimer, I'm not a doctor. The information in this video has come from my own personal experience and it's no substitute for proper medical advice. However, if you are a musician and you're worried about tinnitus and hearing loss, then you might find some of this information useful. So what is tinnitus? Tinnitus is that ringing sound you sometimes hear in your head after a particularly loud gig. It can present itself in just one ear or both ears. Usually it fades away after a day or two, but after repeated noise exposure it can become constant and the volume can get pretty loud too. It's something that all musicians should be aware of as it's surprisingly common. You can find a long list of famous people on Wikipedia who suffer from tinnitus. will.i.am, James Hetfield, Barbra Streisand, just to name a few. So, what are the causes of tinnitus? Well, in musicians, it's typically as a result of damage to the inner ear caused by excessive noise exposure, which is what I'm going to focus on in this video. Other causes include a build-up of wax in the ear, infections, or even as a reaction to some medication. There are a multitude of other reasons too, so it's really important to go see a doctor and get yourself checked out if you're already experiencing tinnitus. When we're exposed to loud volumes, tiny sensitive hairs in the cochlea within the inner ear can become damaged and then inhibited from passing audio signals onto the brain. This is the beginning of hearing loss. Now the brain may try to make up for this missing information, boosting frequencies that just aren't there anymore, and this is when you start to hear tinnitus. I was no stranger to loud noises and self-inflicted audio abuse. I was gigging several times a week in a couple of bands, recording in the studio, rehearsing and working behind the bar in a music venue. I was loving it. It started with a faint ringing sound at first, just in my left ear, and after a couple of weeks or so it began to fade away. Then during my second year at uni, it came back and gradually got louder. It was constant, all day and all night, it never disappeared. It was annoying, but I could tolerate it, just. Fast forward a couple of years and I was driving home from a gig and the volume had jumped up again. I think if it had gotten any louder I probably would have jumped out of a window or something. Thankfully it was around this time I started tinnitus retraining therapy, which is what I'm going to talk to you about in the next video. So what can we do to prevent this from happening? Well, according to the World Health Organization, we should limit ourselves to just 1 hour of music a day, so good luck with that one. But as musicians, we're talking damage control here. Realistically, at some point in our careers, we're going to have to face up to problems with our hearing, not to mention age-related hearing loss. But there are certain things that we can do to protect ourselves. The first line of defence, earplugs, absolutely vital for band practices and gigging. You can pick up cheap foam ones that will do the trick, however things can sound a little bit muffled. So if you want a more enjoyable experience, get yourself some musicians' earplugs. These are designed to attenuate the frequencies more evenly across the spectrum, so stuff still sounds good. There's a charity called Help Musicians UK who have started a musicians hearing health scheme. Definitely check them out, there's a link in the description of this video. For 40 quid you can get yourself an audiological assessment and a set of custom made ACS fitted earplugs worth £140. Now that's a sound investment. In addition to earplugs there's a few other things you can do. Make sure you take regular breaks, go outside, get some fresh air, give your ears a chance to recover, then get back to it. Stand further away from the speakers. If you double your distance you are standing from the speakers, the noise is reduced by 6 decibels. This one might seem obvious, but just turn the volume down. Apart from protecting your ears, there's quite a lot of other beneficial reasons to do so too. If you have a quieter volume on stage for instance, the sound guy will have an easier job making your band sound great, and you'll get a better monitor mix on stage too. In the rehearsal room, or if you're a producer working on a mix, having a lower volume allows you to listen to the music more objectively. You know when your favourite tune comes on, you crank up the volume, it sounds better, it feels better. However, the reality is the music hasn't actually gotten any better, it's just louder, but our brains perceive it as better. So if your song sounds great at a quieter volume, you know you've got a good tune on your hands and the crowd are going to love it too. So there's one more thing I'd like to talk to you about in this video, and that's the obsessive use of earplugs. For me, when I first got tinnitus, I became super anxious and paranoid. I was worried I was going to go completely deaf, so I started wearing earplugs when I really didn't need to. I was wearing them at acoustic open mic nights, on the London Underground, and even in the pub if it felt particularly rowdy. This might seem fairly harmless, but it actually made things worse. At the height of my tinnitus, when playing gigs I would be wearing the strongest foam earplugs I could find, and a pair of ear defenders too. Practically speaking, I couldn't hear any hi-hats or count-ins and my timing went way off, plus things still felt too loud. Two things were happening here. My tolerance for sound was rapidly decreasing. I was developing hyperacusis, which is where some sounds become unbearable or even painful. Secondly, as I was blocking out so much of the outside world, all I could hear was my inside world, tinnitus. And because I could hear my tinnitus a lot clearer, I focused on it even more, and I worried about it even more. it was a downward spiral. So yes, absolutely wear earplugs when you need to, but don't go over the top. Anxiety is a massive contributor to tinnitus and hyperacusis. I'll be discussing this in more detail in the next video. So that about wraps things up. There's some useful links in the description of this video down below. There's a blog post I wrote which will give you a little more insight into my story. There's the hearing health scheme I mentioned earlier. Please like and subscribe and leave any questions or comments down below. Peace.